souls. Substance dualism is a view available both to religious believers and to atheists. If anyone feels that the very word soul already implies a religious outlook, substitute the word self for the word soul throughout this book. The word mind is sometimes used in the sense in which I am using the word soul as an individual thing separate from the body, but mind is often used in other senses, sometimes very unclear ones. For example, to say that someone has a good mind may only mean that that person is intelligent, and may not in any way imply that the person has a part distinct from their body. Hence, as far as possible, I will avoid the use of the noun mind, and although I will use the adjective mental, I will give a precise definition in Chapter 2 of the sense in which I am using it. Any philosophical argument which aims to reach clear and definite conclusions must define its crucial expressions. I have put a few of the more technical philosophical points, which will be of interest only to those familiar with philosophical writing on the topic, in endnotes and in the appendix to Chapter 5, all of which may be ignored by others without losing the main points of my arguments. B. The problem of personal identity. It has always been of deep theoretical importance for our understanding of the world to know whether the world consists only of bits of matter, or also of some things of a totally different kind from bits of matter, which interact with that matter. But it is also of great moral and practical importance to know what humans are. For surely the greater the difference between humans and machines, the more appropriate it is to treat them in very different ways from each other. Further, different views about the nature of human beings are closely connected to different views about the solution to the problem of personal identity. This is the problem of what it is for a person, P2, at time T2, to be the same person as a certain person, P1, at an earlier time, T1. For example, what is it for a respectable citizen George in 2018 to be the same person as a George who murdered someone in 1968? Note that this is not as such a question about what it is for P2 to have the same personality as P1. Our personality is a matter of whether we are hard-hearted or kind, clever or stupid, knowledgeable or ignorant, impatient or patient. To say that someone's personality has changed is to say that he or she, one and the same person, had one personality at one time and a different personality at a different time. Our question is about what it is for P2 to be the same person as P1, whether or not he or she has the same personality. If, as physicalism claims, we are merely physical substances, then whether the later George is the same person as the earlier George depends on whether he is the same physical substance, and that can be spelled out in terms of whether he has the same body, or perhaps just the same brain, as the earlier George. Property dualism, a view intermediate between physicalism and substance dualism, which I shall outline in Chapter 2, holds that humans have properties of two sharply different kinds, physical and mental, so it fits naturally with a view that, while the extent to which George has the same body or brain may play a major role in determining whether the later George is the same person as the earlier George, this depends also on similarities between their mental properties, such as their beliefs, and chiefly on whether the memory beliefs of the later George about his past experiences coincide with the beliefs of the earlier George about his then current experiences. Substance dualism fits naturally with the view that whether the later George is the same person as the earlier George depends only on whether he has the same soul. Most people normally suppose that, whichever of such philosophical views is correct, the later George is in fact the same person as the earlier George, if the later George has the same body as the earlier George, at least as long as he seems to remember some of the experiences had by the earlier George. If means if and only if. But we cannot keep bodies under continuous observation, and so in the past we have used the later George's appearance as evidence that the later George's body is the same body as that of the earlier George. If he looks the same, or at least his appearance is different only in the kind of way that appearances change as people get older, then that, in the absence of evidence that George has an identical twin, is fairly good evidence that the later George's body is the same body as that of the earlier George, and so the later